I think on day 2 of me being an entrepreneur, I landed a big deal. And I was like, come on, baby. I'm like, I'm going to go buy a Range Rover. This is amazing. And then all of a sudden it was like crickets for the next 6 weeks after that. I was like, oh shit. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Fearful Giants, the podcast that's getting loud about something most leaders never talk about out loud, their fear. I'm Clay Stelzer, executive coach and founder of 1560. And every week I sit down with a founder, a CEO, or an executive leader to talk about the stuff they're not typically posting about or talking about on LinkedIn. And today I've got Andrew Warden with me. And Andrew is the president of Branch Ventures, where he serves as an interim executive in the portfolio companies, but he also oversees the internal operations of the firm and works closely with partners to evaluate and scale new ventures. However, I met Andrew when he was doing something else. He was the chief people officer and partner of a really cool consulting firm called Credera that is owned by Omnicom. And when he was there, he developed his passion for leading large-scale initiatives and building high-performance teams. Andrew lives in Dallas with his wife, Wendy, his incredible partner of 26 years, and he's got 2 great kids that he's very proud of. Hello, Andrew. I'm so happy to have you here.
Hello. Happy to be here.
We've known each other for, I don't know, at least 3 years, I think, maybe 4 years.
Three or
something
4
like
years.
that. And we've always had really, really fun conversations. And, as the chief people officer, there's been a lot to talk about. And so there's a lot I want to talk about today. I want to talk about some of your past, but I want to talk about some of your present, and then we'll end with the future. But specifically, here are the topics I thought we'd have a lot of fun talking about. One, your transition from a large consulting environment that you've been in for most of your life to the startup space. I want to talk about that transition. I also then want to talk about how fear and culture are the same and different in both, because in my experience, they're wildly different. Then I want to move into this will be real interesting, the 4-letter word that doesn't show up in the workplace all that often, love. Love is something, it's just always such a fascinating conversation. And I know you're pretty passionate about this idea of love in the workplace. So I want to talk about that. We'll wrap up with conflict and hard conversations as it pertains to how we exist and coexist with our business partners. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Sounds like a meaty agenda.
Well, that's my middle name, Media Agenda. I don't know what that means. I don't know where that came from. Listen, this is Fearful Giants. We want to do stuff that's interesting and important. And I think we've got a cool set of topics that are both of those things. So let's start with the first thing. 2 very different worlds. You spent most of your career as a consultant and in the consulting arena. You ended at Credera as a chief people officer. And now you're in early stage ventures. So first thing, I'm curious, what was calling to you to make that change?
Yeah. Well, a lot of things, but I think there are a couple things in particular. When I joined Credera, it was actually very small. I think I was like employee number 32. And we had an incredible ride. And Credera is still on that ride, going from 30-ish folks in one office in Dallas, Texas to close to 4,000 people on 5 continents, part of a larger holding company, Omnicom, as we did the transaction in 2018 to join that group. But I really enjoyed the small. I enjoyed every facet of the growth. It was an incredible ride for me, but I really enjoyed the small nature of working together. The nice thing about small firms is nice for me, may not be nice for some folks. There's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to well, I have people that do that. I don't have to do any of those things. Everyone has to be hands-on, working on the business and in the business. And the opportunity to go to Branch was the opportunity to work with people that I really, really respected as professionals. I really, really respected as human beings, even more important. And we were all going to work on building this business together. And that was really exciting to me, to get to be back to hands-on, back to really doing things, not directing and leading things, but not being responsible for the day-to-day deliverables, but actually having a hand in that too.
Yeah.
Now it's hard work. Startups are hard. And this is a startup focused on creating new startups. So it's like a wicked sense of what you call fun. But to me, that's fun.
Yeah. Well, I love it. And what I find interesting in what you just said is I'm moving into a situation where there's no place to hide, where so many other people be like, "Are you kidding me? I want a place to hide." And maybe not all the time, but I certainly like that as an option. And those are probably the people that really enjoyed long careers in large companies.
Right.
Yeah. So,
And listen, it's painful at times. There are moments where you do want to hide, where you do want, hey, somebody else could take care of that. I just want to get through the day instead of really focus on what I need to accomplish, what I need to execute on. But it's so much more fun when you're willing to put those fears away and say, well, I'm going to work on this anyway. I'm going to enter into that knowing that there are elements that are it's on me, it's on this small team, but that's what's fun, that's what's enjoyable, at least for me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, in this transition, I mean, listen, what was it? Almost 2 decades in consulting,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Probably actually more,
Yeah.
close to 30 years in consulting overall.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long time. And, whether we like to admit it or not, so much of our identity comes from what we do every day in work. I love that you knew that you enjoyed small. You started at Credera when it was small. You wanted to get back to that. But was there a part of yourself you were hoping to leave behind in this transition?
Yeah, there was. I got burned out toward the end for a lot of different reasons. But if I look back on it, and I've done a lot of reflection on this over the last 18 or so months, toward the end of my time at Credera, I was just kind of fried. I was in the midst of a lot of roles and a lot of things that I said yes to, right? That I could have, this wasn't, the many characters in the story, but I had agency in this as well. I had the ability to say, no, I can't do that. No, I need to focus a little bit more, but I didn't. And so one of the things I learned through the some help with a great executive coach, a couple things for me are warning flags. One is that I'm exhausted, that I'm just tired, that I don't have a moment to think or to kind of get ahead of the task, but be strategic and really thoughtful. So when I'm really, really tired, really, really stressed, that's a warning sign. That's like a yellow flag. When I have imposter syndrome, when I don't feel confident that I know what I'm doing is a yellow flag. And I would say for the last couple of years at Credera, both of those yellow flags were going off and the combination wasn't good. I mean, the combination of the two yellow flags for me was a red flag. And so one of the things that's nice now is I feel like for the first time in maybe 2 or 3 years, I'm lighter. I'm holding it loosely. If you're a
Yeah.
fan of the movie Bull Durham, the fictional character Crash Davis, you got to hold it like an egg. You can't squeeze it too tight. And
Yeah.
I was toward the end. And it's nice to feel again like I'm holding it loose.
I mean, how cool is that? So you're in a small environment where you can hide, but it works for you because I use the word integrity a lot. Like, I'm where I need to be. I'm saying yes when I mean yes, and I'm saying no when I mean no. Imposter syndrome is an interesting idea. I'm glad you brought that up. I think most of us experience that at some level. I'm guessing that, in this new environment, it's not like you have all the answers.
No. No.
So,
No.
so you may not be able to leave the imposter behind. How do you handle the imposter syndrome in this new setting?
It's a constant struggle. I mean, I keep hoping for this day that will come, this mythical day that will come, that I will know with certainty what I'm doing, what the answers are. And it kind of goes back to when I first started out at Anderson Consulting, now Accenture. I had a manager. This manager's name was Jeff Champ. I thought he was an all knowing God. He's probably 4 years ahead of me in his
Yeah.
career, but he was 2 levels above. And Jeff Champ knew it all. And I thought, well, one day I'll get to manager at Accenture and I'll know it all too. And I got to manager and guess what? I didn't know it all. I was probably on my best day a couple of weeks ahead of what my team was expecting me to lead. On my worst moments, I was probably 2 hours ahead of, what they needed and what direction we needed to go. It just seemed like Jeff Champ knew it all. He was probably in that same boat as well because there's no master playbook that says, I mean, Clay, maybe you're in that situation where you go, no, I know exactly what I need to do as a leader. If you do, tell us all what those
Yeah.
things are.
I was going to say, Andrew, I've got it all figured out. I've got it
Exactly.
all figured out. But go ahead, just keep going.
No, yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay, okay. Yeah, you don't have it all figured out. And, we all have that person that we idolize. And what is the expression? Don't meet your heroes.
Yeah,
You ever heard?
exactly.
Have you ever?
Exactly.
Yeah, because you find out what's really going on under the covers. And, listen, how many people were at Credera when you left?
Over 3,500.
Yeah, 3,500 employees. Like, how many of those would have said, "Boy, that Andrew, what an imposter"? Yeah, probably not many.
Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe a
Okay.
few.
So, big change. 30 years in consulting, now you're in a small company. What did that move reveal about you as a leader and maybe as a human being more so that was unexpected?
One of the things I like to be back in an environment because I truly feel like the leadership here at Branch Ventures is focused on how are we creating something that truly lasts? How are we making decisions where even if they're painful in the short run, we'll do the right thing for the long run? And I think that was, I don't know if that was completely surprising, Clay, but it was refreshing to get back to. I'm curious, like, what was your experience? Because you come from a corporate environment. You were with Salesforce, right? And what was interesting for as you founded 1560, what was surprising to you?
As scary as it is to start a company, to be an entrepreneur, actually, I think we've pretty parallel paths here. As scary as the pressure was for me, like, there's not a paycheck coming. You eat what you kill kind of thing as an entrepreneur. Even though I had that pressure on me when I started 1560, when I left Salesforce, I still felt lighter. That was a cool surprise. It was a really good surprise.
Right.
It was, it was like, boy, I'm really glad that this is so exciting that I can hold all that other nervousness in an okay way and still really enjoy this ride. I just loved having the wheel. I loved not having to fit in someplace. I could totally just do things the way I wanted to do things. That wasn't a surprise to me. But I guess the surprise was that that was so good that all the other entrepreneurial fears didn't seem as significant as I may have imagined they would have been.
Yeah. Did you feel like you always feel it a little bit, I think, this aspect of if we don't do something, if we don't execute, then it's all going to go away, right? It's all going to fall apart. I'm curious what that was for you because I can tell you what it's been for me.
Well, I think on day 2 of me being an entrepreneur, I landed a big deal. And I was like, "Come on, baby." I'm like, "I'm gonna go buy a Range Rover. This is amazing." And then all of a sudden, it was like crickets for the next, like, 6 weeks after that. I was like, "Oh, shit." So, what was the question specifically? Like,
Like,
the
how did you? How much of a balance was it? Of this is I'm worried. This
yeah.
is scary. This is like pressure filled versus this is fun. This is exciting. This is the
I
best
think
decision I ever made.
I think it was 80%, 20% worry if I had to put a number on it. It was just fun, and it was like and I'm so glad I got that early win because I knew it was possible. Like, okay, my hypothesis is panning out. I can get paid independently to do what I'm gifted at doing or to do what I want to be doing. That was a really important step for me. It actually made a lot of the space after that where nothing was happening a little bit more manageable because at least I'd experienced some version of success. Now, for me in my entrepreneurial journey, things got a lot harder when I went longer periods of time without that success. Even though I knew it, even though I knew I could do it, and I was putting in the work, doing business development, doing all, kind of being in the grind that most entrepreneurs have to be in, and still not getting the returns I wanted, that can take its toll. And I felt that. And then all of a sudden things became a little bit less fun. But I moved through that. And the more I moved through, one of the coolest things I ever learned, I don't know where this came from, but early on, I don't know, a year, 2 years in, I had two really large clients. And one client, I was coaching 10 executives at the top of their organization. And another client, I was coaching, I think, 6 or 7. And within a 3-week period, both organizations reorged and all 16 clients went away.
Mm.
Now, in my business, 16 clients, that's a lot of clients. That's almost a full roster. And so I went from fat and happy and just loving life to like, oh shit, the bottom just fell out. And that put me in a little bit of a tailspin, as you can imagine. I learned a lot of lessons doing that. But one of the things that got me through that, and again, I don't know if I had a conversation with someone, but I use this strategy constantly now. Whenever I feel like I don't have enough of something, I give.
I
So
love that.
After I was done shitting myself and dealing with all my anxiety, I don't know what it was. I just wanted to be helpful because I know when I'm helpful, I feel alive, I feel good. So I don't remember, I just started helping people. I just started like, hey, you know, if you have a need, not to like earn business or to get paid, but I just helped people and I just was out in the world really standing for what I believed in. And then amazing how all of a sudden the world starts showing up for you. And I learned that lesson through that experience, which was really cool.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I am curious though, how has doing what you're doing now, managing more to the long game, affected your experience working with a team? Like fundamentally, how is it actually affecting team culture and what it's like to work in an organization?
I mean, what was all of us are fairly obsessive, ambitious people, right? And so I don't think there's a concern with any of us of will we press hard to go try to get and achieve what we need to do within a set time frame. I think it's freeing, um, when you do have to make a decision that like, "Hey, this is gonna be painful in the short run, but we think this is the right thing in the long term." What you're really doing is you're displaying your values, right? Not what you put on a PowerPoint presentation or on your website, but you're actually living what you believe. Because your values are really only tested when it comes at a cost to you. You can say, "Well, I believe in this," and if it's convenient for you to believe, if you win when you believe that, I don't know that your values are really being displayed there or being tested there. But when you have to, like, this comes at a cost to us. And I'll give you an example that was interesting. We said, this was in a prior organization, like one of the ones that I've worked at in my career. We said giving back to the community was a big deal. It was really important to us. And so we did. Hey, we're going to pull everybody out of the business and we're going to go serve at least once a day or once a year. And we're going to serve together. So it's giving back to the community, being together in doing that. This is important to us. And then we had a year where we were behind on our financial plan. And we said, oh, we can't pull everyone out of the business and do this. Or if we do, we need to everybody needs to work to compensate, work extra hours around the month in order to get the money back. And so we made that decision, and I was part of that decision. And it was one of the decisions in looking back on that year that I really regretted. Like, why did we do that? I told our CEO, I said, look, we need to determine whether this is something we truly believe in or not. And if we truly
Mhm.
believe in it, we ought to do it even if we're behind. Like, I don't think I'll look back on my career and go, remember May of X year? We were going to miss our financial plan by X, but we shrunk it to Y. Wow, I'm so proud of that. But what I might say at the end of my career, what I might say to one of my family members, we believed in giving back. And we believed in giving back even when it hurt our financial performance. We missed on a goal that we had committed to, but we said it was important and we didn't change what we said because it wasn't convenient at that point in time. And I think that's like, I like the ability to get back to those. I think those are actually freeing decisions, not necessarily painful decisions.
So there's a lot written, a lot discussed about core values in a business. I know so many companies, it's very typical for people to go through the exercise and make a pretty bronzed plaque that they put behind the reception desk or something like, here are the things we stand for. And then there's organizations that they live those values. And that's what I think you're talking about. And I think it's really, really important because when everything else is changing in the world, when there's all this uncertainty and tariffs, and I mean, change is constant, having those values to lean against, I think really is strength. I think it holds a group together. So that's what I'm hearing you.
Well,
That's what I'm
and
hearing you talk about.
Patty McCord, who was the chief people leader at, I think, Netflix, paraphrasing what she said, but I think she said, the values at Netflix are based on who we hire, who we reward, who we promote, and who we part ways with. Everything else is just pretty little words written on a website,
Yeah.
right? But it's really, and it's how we live. And I have been fortunate in the organizations that I've worked with through my career. I would say, on the whole, didn't just write core values on a wall, but actually tried to go live those values.
Yeah. So is this something that you pay a lot of attention to in Branch, the new firm?
Yeah, quite a bit.
What does that look like? I would love for people listening to be inspired by what you're doing and what values actually means to you and your company.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is just the ritual of reminding ourselves, why are we doing this? And so whenever a new person joins, and we're all partners and shareholders and owners in this when you come on board, that's our model. And so when everybody is making that commitment and transitioning into that ownership, we get everyone together and we go through, why are we doing this? What are we about? What will success look like in 10 years? I love that ritual because I think as you grow and scale, and even if you're not growing and scaling, I just think over time, if you don't remind yourselves of the whys, the guiding principles, the foundational elements, you can drift away from them. Even though we've heard them many times, it's just refreshing to go back and go, yes, this is what we're about. I think
Yeah.
to me that's just exciting.
Yeah. A lot of companies share values. They're not necessarily all that unique, which doesn't surprise me. It's not a bad thing. There's certain human ways of being in the world that most people benefit by and from. Is there anything unique about Branch that you think like, yeah, this given our backgrounds, given our passions, given who we are and what we're wanting to create in the world, is there anything unique around your values?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that's unique. I'll cover three that stand out for me. Our vision starts with to glorify God by being a venture studio committed to the success with our corporate partners. And I love the fact that it starts with something that's bigger than each of us. And
Uh-huh.
then two of the elements from our values and just really our definition of what success looks like. I mean, there's all the things that you would expect a venture studio to have. We want to be profitable and grow and be one of the, recognized as one of the top venture studios in North America. But the two that really stand out to me are really the last two in the list. And they are our families were thankful that we got an opportunity to do this. And just think about that for a second. Our families are thankful that we get to do this because it means that we are doing something not to the exclusion of our families, but actually with our families and present with our families.
I
And then the
love
last
that.
one is we gave generously to those in need.
Yeah.
And I love that. I mean, one of the things that we have put, legally in place is a first fruits concept of 20% of our profits, a double tithe, go back to Christian causes and charities because that's important to us. And we
Yeah.
wanted to make sure it was not something that, like, well, this time I don't kind of want to do that. No, it's part of it. Like that's the first cut.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so those stand out to me.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. I was not imagining we are gonna be talking about your corporate values, but here we are, and I think it's really cool, and I mean, by definition, I think those values are probably what makes Branch unique. The one that I am struck by is this, our families thank us every day. I'm talking with folks about work-life balance and, how does if I hit the gas at work, how does that affect my home life? And I've never heard of anyone talk about this the way that you're talking about it around our families thank us. And I just am really appreciating that because that's one of those things that's so important. But to take it to the level, not only are they okay with us working the way we work at Branch, they're actually on board and thanking us for bringing our gifts to Branch. My words, not yours, but I love that. I
Sure,
think
for
it's
sure.
awesome.
Well, it's interesting when Matt and I started talking about this opportunity and me coming on board as one of the five founders. One of the things we had a follow-up conversation and he said, "Well, how are you feeling about this?" And I said, "Oh, I'm feeling, really good. I'm excited about it." And the second question was really telling back to that value and back to who Matt is. He said, "How is Wendy feeling about it?" And I said, I kind of looked at him like, well, she's good. And he said, it's really important that she be as excited about this as you are, right? I mean, if this isn't good for you, if it isn't good for the two of you, if it isn't good for your family, it's not going to be good, Andrew. That's
Cool.
pretty powerful stuff.
Again, that's living the values, not just bullshitting everyone with a
Right.
fancy slide or something on a website. Yeah, that's really cool.
Right. Right.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Matt. I was going to talk about Matt later in our conversation, but why don't we talk about him now? I'm still learning about your relationship with him. It seems pretty incredible. So you've known Matt a long time. You worked at Credera with him.
Hmm.
And I want to talk about, and I've never met Matt, but you shared some stories. I want to talk about conflict. And I think Matt might be a good, cool relationship to toss around. So
Yeah.
it is human nature to avoid conflict. We all do it. Unconsciously or consciously, most of us avoid conflict. I think that's what leads to lots of conflict. And it seems like you have a pretty special relationship with Matt where that isn't much of an option anymore. Maybe it was at the beginning, but it certainly isn't now. Um, can you share a little bit about your relationship with Matt and how conflict plays a role?
Yeah. So Matt and I do. We go way back, gosh, 19 years, 19 plus years. I consider Matt a very, very, very deep friend, as well as a business colleague. But like a lot of close relationships, Matt and I butted heads along the way. And I'm very thankful for the conflict resolution process that we had in place. I would say we got to a point, and it's funny, I don't remember the exact particulars of what we were in conflict about all these years later. But it was a really deep conflict. And we had gotten to a point where it was basically this town ain't big enough for the both of us. One of us has to go, right? Really, it got to that point because I wasn't following our conflict resolution process. Matt was trying to, and then as we brought in others, we actually went to the board and said we need help resolving this conflict. We were able to work through that in a really, really healthy way. And we were able to kind of go to the rock bottom in the relationship and work and commit that the relationship was important and work on those things, which adds then depth to the relationship. Well, once you know, hey, I can go to really hard places with another person and we're going to work through it and we're both going to be committed to the relationship being whole and the relationship being healthy. Think about the incredible things that you can go do in the world when you have that level of trust. And so happy to go into, but I probably didn't explain it terribly
Well,
well, but I'm happy to describe it differently if it's helpful.
what's more important to me, and I think the show, is your process and how you navigate conflict. The specific details of your relationship with Matt, maybe not as important unless they are. But you said something that surprised me. Like you said, I wasn't following our conflict process. And I'm thinking, like, well, that's pretty cool. I don't hear that all that often. What do you mean your conflict process? I mean, I have a lot to say about conflict process, but I don't hear people all the time saying that they have one. So what is your conflict, or what was your conflict process? What is it
Yeah,
today, I guess?
we had one at Credera. We basically used a lot of those principles, what we have at Branch, and we have an actual process for handling conflict. It's written down. It's part of your onboarding process just to make sure everyone understands this is how we do things. It's not overly complex. It's quite simple, but one of the things I'm trying to constantly remind myself of is getting away from the trap of avoiding the simple, hard thing that will fix the problem by trying to find myself in complexity. So it's a really simple process, right? And it starts with number one, writing down the conflict. I don't know if you've ever been in conflict with someone or in a disagreement with someone that you kind of work yourself up and you're like, I'm mad at Clay and I can't even remember actually what I'm mad at. I just am pissed at him. And it starts with like, well, I need to write down, what am I mad about? What am I really mad about? And then the second step, and this is again, it's an easy step. It's just counterintuitive and a little bit difficult to make yourself do. Is you have to then write down, what did I do to contribute to this conflict? So I'm going to write down, I'm mad at Clay because of whatever. What did I do that contributed to that? I'm going to list those things. And you don't, I mean, you could do it mentally. You don't have to write it down. But going through the exercise of thinking through, where could I be at fault here? And then when you meet together, I mean, somebody obviously has to go first. What we recommend is the person who has the higher position, the higher authority, the more power actually goes first. And they say, Clay, I think we're at odds with one another because of this. And I'd love to tell you, I think I did these things to contribute to this. And I want to tell you all of these things. And at the end of it, I'd love for you to tell me if I left anything out. And then once we've gone through everything that I've possibly done that got us to this point, then we can talk about anything that you might have done. And it really takes a little bit because I think they're polar extremes on conflict, right? We avoid it at all costs. And then when we get into it, a lot of us go into, well, this is a zero sum game. We're in conflict. I want to win, you need to lose. Frequently, we come into disagreements and we've got emotion, starting with what I've potentially done to get us to this spot. Takes all that emotion out. It
Yeah.
starts with the humility of, here are the things that I think I'm at fault with. And then we're working together on what are our options. We're staying committed to this relationship matters. We used to have a saying at Credera, our old CEO would say this. I absolutely love it. He would say, brick up, brick down, right? In our relationships, if a brick goes up in between us, we have to make sure that a brick comes down, or else a brick goes up and it's, hey, it's just a brick. It doesn't matter. Then another brick goes up, and soon you have a wall between you and the other person. And this brick up, brick down, I think is so important of how do we work through things in a healthy way, in a constructive way, so that we can go execute on the business. And so that's our process in a nutshell.
Listen, I do this work for a living. I'm trained in relationship conflict, like you're talking about. I don't remember talking with someone in your role that had a process like this defined the way you have it. I'm sitting over here thinking, because there's underneath all of what you're talking about, there's some really radical, really incredible principles that are not obvious to most of us. I think what you just described is, I don't know, top 2%. Like, I just don't hear many leaders in many organizations having this process. And I am just celebrating you and loving that you all have this. I didn't actually know that. I worked with y'all, Credera. I didn't know you actually had this process in place. That's incredible. There's a lot there that's difficult. One, taking ownership. I love this idea. What's my part in the outcomes? What's my part in the situation? That is not an intuitive question to ask. It's the right question to ask, but it's not an intuitive question to ask, especially if you're really riled up and wanting to strangle the other person. So, really cool that you had this process in place, but what allowed you all to actually maintain this process and move through the hard stuff to use it? Not easy to do, but incredibly effective.
Yeah, I mean, it takes work. It's one of those simple things. There's nothing complex about the process. It's painful, hard at times. I don't want to do that. I don't want to humble myself and think about what I've done. I just kind of just skip that step. So we have to hold each other accountable to it. We recognize as part of the process of like, you start one on one, and if you can't work it out, then you bring in others, not from a bringing others from the outside and to gang up on the other person or to try to, but to help through the process and to help follow the process and to help the two people that are at odds with one another to work through what they're dealing with. I don't know. It requires discipline. It's not fun to think about the things that you did wrong. It's just effective.
Yeah. So, got it. Okay. Well, it makes sense. So you talked about some of these really big challenges. There's not room for two of us in this, in this town or whatever it was. But it seems like you each were willing to stop, take a look, and identify your part in the situation.
Yeah, and again, it for my side. So I still distinctly remember Matt. He had it written down. And he's going through all this, and I'm like, "Well, yeah, you did all those things. I'm gonna tell you other things that you did, and then we're gonna focus to stay on you." And I didn't want to commit to the process.
I see.
And so we
Yeah.
needed to bring the board in for there were elements of Andrew, the things that Matt is talking about. Like I'm seeing them right here today. And so I had to open up to it, right? Both parties have to agree to it for it to be effective. But it's doable.
Well, one of the things you said earlier before you introduced this process that I think makes this work, you said you have to care enough about the other person or the relationship. That is a card I pull all the time when I'm coaching a team or a partnership. Like, do you guys care about each other? Do you care about the success of the business? Do you care about your partnership? What do you both have in common? Like, really help the relationship see what's possible beyond the particular challenge that's in the way. Without that, I don't think any of this shit works.
Well, and we start actually when we're going through this exercise, we start with affirming that the relationship matters. Like our relationship matters. I want us to have a healthy relationship. And that is one of the primary goals. And like I think Adam Grant talks about this in the book Think Again. When you look at organizations and you look at conflict, right? There are different types of conflict. So what we've been talking about is relational conflict. And relational conflict in organizations is really, really detrimental to the organizational health and performance. But if you can keep relationships healthy and then you can then be focused on, and some of the research proves that like teams that engage in task conflict and process conflict, in a healthy way with healthy relationships are more creative, the more innovative, the higher performing. But you got to have the relationships have to be there. They have to matter. And if you got relational conflict, you're screwed, right? I mean, you're not going to be able to go wrestle with task and process conflict and do great things.
Man, I just love it. I love that you're so committed to this. There's so much about you and all of what you do that I already love, and I did for some reason, I feel like, "How did I not know this process exists?" It's brilliant. It's really cool, and I imagine you're bringing well, you and Matt are I mean, if you were doing this at Credera, I have to imagine it is non-negotiable at Branch, is my assumption.
Yes.
So, I actually think this is a good segue into this idea of love in the workplace. I don't remember what we were talking about, but it came up like, yeah, love is really important to me in the workplace. It's also very important to me, but for lots of different reasons. I'm curious to hear from you why so many people in the workplace, executives, brilliant executives, are so allergic to the idea of love in the workplace. What's your take on that?
I don't know why, right? I don't know if they because to me, love is a love's a full contact verb. And for me, I think how it came up in our conversation, if you are going to provide constructive feedback to someone, to criticize by a different word, you have to care about the other person. They have to know you care about them. They have to know you love them in order for them to hear when you've got a hard message. And
Yeah,
like this came up just the other day. I was having lunch with a dear friend that we used to work together. She works someplace else now. And she said, "Hey, I've got to give this really hard feedback to one of my employees." And I said, "Okay, well, tell me what's going on." She told me, and my question, I said, "Does this guy know that you care about him?" And she said, "Yeah, yeah." And she got a pause. And she went, "I think he knows." And I said, don't think, no, right? Tell him. Now, when you tell them, if your actions are incongruent with that statement, like, "Hey, Clay, I care about you, but how I treat you, my actions around you are inconsistent with that," well, then you got different problems. But just being able to say, "I care about you deeply. I love you," which is an even more powerful word, then you can deal with this hard thing that, like, I need to talk with you about this thing. But it's coming from a spot of caring.
I mean, I'm clapping, I'm applauding on the sidelines, hearing everything you're saying. And for anyone listening to this that's cringing, thinking about this idea of expressing love to someone they work with, I actually don't think using the word love has anything to do with bringing love to the workforce. The word love can be, I mean, even in families, the word love can be pretty polarizing. The word itself has a lot of baggage depending on your upbringing, et cetera, et cetera. However, I see love as a strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're weirded out by the word, it was interesting. I'll go back to Matt many years ago. It's before I was a partner at Credera. Matt was giving me some really hard feedback, and Matt can give pretty sweeping feedback that's hard to receive. And this was feedback that was directly related to, like, these are the things that are required to make partner in the firm, which was a big goal of mine. And he's telling me, you're not showing that you can ever do this. And what was really interesting, here's what he said. He never said the word love. He was expressing it, but he'd never used the word. But he used these words. He said, "Andrew," because he could tell how frustrated I was and how impacted I was by this feedback. He said something really important. He said, "Andrew, you're my guy. You're my guy. You're the guy I brought into the firm. You're the guy that, like, I'm your coach. I'm your mentor in our model. You're my guy. I'm giving you this feedback not because I don't like you, not because you can never, but because you need to hear this stuff." And it changed things completely for me, from a willingness to accept it, from a not being down out of the comfort and knowing that I needed to work on something, but knowing that Matt was giving this feedback to me, which was really hard for me to hear because he cared about me and he loved me. And so if you don't like the word, say care, say you're my guy, you're whatever works for you. But that concept, that strategy, that intent matters so much.
It matters so much. There's lots of different formats for offering each other feedback. There's books, crucial conversations, et cetera. It doesn't matter to me. Pick any of them. There's value in all of them. But how are you setting up the conversation? Are you setting it up? I love what you said. Are you affirming the relationship? Hey, I have some thoughts that I think would help you be more successful at what you want to be successful at. Are you open to hearing them? And I have them. I don't know if I'm right, but I have them because, and I like to share them
Oh,
because
I
I
love
care.
that.
because I care about your success. And then, you can see if they're open to it. I mean, if you're directly managing them, you can give feedback without necessarily waiting around for them to be open to it. But
It
yeah,
certainly
so
helps, though. It certainly helps. And I love the comment that you made is so important of, "I have these thoughts. I have these observations. I don't know if I'm right or not."
yeah,
I think that's so important versus, "I know." You are, I know, it is. I just think there's beauty in that.
if you bring your feedback simply as my thoughts or stories, that's true. That's true. It is true that I have a thought about what you could be doing differently. Whether or not my opinion is true, that's debatable. I talk a lot about facts versus stories and speaking unarguably. Can I just share my thoughts as my thoughts without making them right? And I think as soon as you start making your opinions and feedback true, that's when people become less willing to actually receive them. This is such an important conversation to any leader listening. You don't need to use the word love. You don't need to use any woo woo words. I think love as a strategy can show up as letting someone go. It's the best thing for our staff. I care so much about our organization. The most loving thing I know to do for everyone involved, even the person that I'm going to let go, is to let them go. I really do believe that's the best thing. Love can be it could be a hard message. It can be celebrating someone and promoting someone for sure. But what's the most loving thing for me to do now without even sharing the word love in any conversation, I think is so incredibly effective at leading and managing that so many people forget to do or just not part of their MO.
Giving people hard feedback is, "Ooh, that's not fun." But when I approach it from, "This is the most caring thing. This is the most loving thing that I can do." And it actually is, it's mean to think something about someone and not be willing to have that conversation with them. And I think that's why love and caring in the workplace is so important, is because we're so afraid to have those conversations with people.
I love your point of view on all of this. And this is not a common way of being in the world as a leader. How did you learn this? How did you learn to stand for this?
I benefited by having people around me that showed me. I don't know. There's so much in the world, Clay, that everyone tells you what to do. I think we need less of people telling us and more of people showing us and inspiring us by what they do. It's kind of the St. Francis of Assisi: go out into the world and preach the gospel. Use words if absolutely necessary. And I benefited from that. I benefited from people that told me they cared about me, whether it was Matt saying, "You're my guy," or, the first person who ever believed in me from a career standpoint, Bill Warren, who, poured tremendously into me. And we had tough conversations, epically tough conversations, but always from a place of caring and love. It was modeled. What's, I don't know, frightening to me in a lot of ways is I don't think it's modeled a ton in the world, but it should be.
Yeah, you have a cool playbook. You have a cool philosophy around loving the people you work with. In my experience, what gets in the way of that is fear. And oftentimes it's unconscious. It's like we move away from things that feel hard, like naturally. So when you think about branch and you think about your road ahead, what would love do for you next that you're not doing now?
I think we are doing it, so I'm gonna answer the question a little bit differently. We struggle with it though. I think even, look, you can have processes in place, you can have, commitment to things, you can be trying to live out your values. These are hard things. And so naturally we might be inclined to shy away from them. I think love and commitment to relationships in the workplace and keeping relationships whole enable us the opportunity to do something great in the world, to have exceptional portfolio companies, to have exceptional performance, to do exceptional good in the world. I think if we didn't have those things, we would be okay. It would be great, but not exceptional. I think it enables us the freedom to try. Versus if you don't have love, if you don't have a willingness to tolerate mistakes and to care for one another, why would you try to do something scary? Why would you try to do something really hard?
Yeah.
And we have to remind ourselves of it. We'll get
Okay.
out.
How do you
Go
remind
ahead.
yourself? Like, that's such an important piece. All of this sounds great until we fall asleep and we let inertia take us wherever it takes us. What do you do? I think this is the other piece that is so important as people begin building these kinds of approaches to leadership into their day to day. How do you stay attached to these ideas?
Yeah, I mean, different organizations have their different ways. I'll just tell you an example that came up probably 4 or 5 months ago. We had a situation that was it was unexpected, and there was a moment in a meeting where somebody says, "How could we?" And they were looking at a person who it was their responsibility. We weren't like this person by name, but it was kind of directed at that person. It was like, "How could we be this far in and just now finding out this information?" Pause. I had to think for a second, like, okay, how are we going to handle this? And my response was, because this is the first time we've ever encountered this, and the first time we're doing anything, we're probably going to make a bunch of mistakes, and they're all going to be frustrating. We're all looking around the room going, why did it take so long for us to find? We should have found this earlier. Well, we all feel that, but we have to give each other a little bit of grace. Now, if we continually, like the next time we're doing this, we're saying the same thing again, well, shame on us. But like we're learning, yes, this is a mistake. We need to deal with it and move on. And I think that's the important thing. So we all slip into that pattern. I mean, the person was not trying to do it wrongly. It's just in the moment, these things are frustrating.
So if I was to put words like a framework to what you're saying, it seems to me like you're choosing curiosity and grace over blame.
I hope so. I
That's
certainly
what it
hope
sounds like
so.
to me. Yeah. That's a pretty cool strategy. I mean, the obvious thing is to go blame each other and want to chop each other down. And then you waste how much energy, how much time, how much whatever, not learning anything, and then left with the same result. So it's amazing. I didn't know you 15 years ago, but clearly you have grown and learned so much through your years and years and years. What's your edge now? What does this world have for you now that's next for you to learn?
Gosh, there's a ton for me to learn, right? That's exciting. I always want to be learning something.
I know you do. Is there one thing that's like, now is the time for me to learn this? Is there one thing you're toying with or that's toying with you?
Probably the biggest things, Clay, are like, how can I be more curious? That's a big thing for me right now. And you just covered it, curiosity and grace over blame. I don't know that I'm curious enough. There's something I wrote down the other day. I've got my little book of like I write stuff for my book of wisdom that I write stuff down in. And this is related to this topic. I just flipped to it. And the it's a quote, how fascinating. Curiosity and empathy tied together are quite powerful. And like so I wrote that down for myself of like, I need to be saying how fascinating. Tell me more. Asking, "What did you think?" more often and meaning it. Those are the things that I'm really working on right now. What do you okay, same, you can't make me do that and then not give me something.
Sure,
What
I
are you
can.
working on right now?
This is
No?
my day. This is my show,
Well,
Andrew.
you can edit it out if you don't want to, but you
What?
you
No, no,
have
I'm
to
I'm
answer.
I'm kidding, of course. What is here for me? What's my growth right now?
Yeah,
I have there's two. One, I throughout my life I have been to a fault overly independent or self-reliant. If I don't count on one that and anyone, that means I can't get hurt. So I'm just going to do it myself. And that was actually a pretty effective strategy for me for a long time, given the cards on the table. And now I think it gets in the way of connection and there's a cost I pay when I get in that trap. So that is something I'm consciously aware of and working on right now. The next is, and I have grown so much in this regard, but I continue to want to learn to simply let go and trust that life is here for me,
yeah, that you're enough.
that I'm in a, and it's kind of the story I shared before. I was controlling my business and wrapping my arms around it. And then, I ended up having two of my biggest clients go away. And it's like, I can control all I want to control, and then shit happens. But as soon as I just trust and I give, the world is a beautiful place for me to be in. And so I've learned that lesson a few times. And I just, like you said, I just need to keep reminding myself of that and just keep reminding myself, one, that this world is much greater than me and bigger than me in a way I can't possibly understand. And two, if I am leading with love, like we've been talking about, and trusting deeply in that, that's a really cool life.
For sure, for sure.
So
Well, to
I'm in,
encourage you to encourage you on the connection piece, I just heard Dan Buettner. is his name. He's a National Geographic explorer. He does the research around the blue zones, right? The spots
Uh-huh.
on Earth that
Uh-huh.
people live exceptionally long lives. And like next to not smoking tobacco, not being a tobacco user, the number one thing that you can do for the longevity of your life is related to connection and dependence. It's community. And so it's so important. The control freak in all of us goes, no, I can't get hurt. I stay in control if I am independent. We are social beings. We are wired for connection.
We absolutely are. I've got 2 questions I ask all my guests. I bet these will be pretty easy for you, given the discussion we just had. Here's the first one. If you could whisper one truth into every leader's ear, what would it be?
Probably just to tie back to what we are talking, they got to know you care. They got to know you love them.
Love your people and let them know that you love your people.
And that, by the way, doesn't let you off the hook for giving them hard feedback. That doesn't mean you're a pushover.
Exactly. Loving your people doesn't mean being soft
Right.
or people equate love with weakness, which I think
You
is
know,
ridiculous.
love is the epitome of strength.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, here's the next question. And this is about you. What truth helps the giant in you rise up when fear drags you down?
That I'm enough. That I'm enough.
Yeah, you certainly are. And I'm glad you know that.
Well,
That's
I have to
something that,
remind myself of it.
yeah. And that's
I
a,
have to
a path
remind
we all
myself
need. That's a path we
for
all need to
sure.
walk. Yeah. This is exactly the conversation I imagined I'd have with you, Andrew.
Well, hopefully you got something you could use.
I think we got a ton. I'm over here sitting here. I'm thinking like, well, listen, Andrew, if Branch Ventures doesn't go the way you want it to go, you've got a career in coaching. Like,
Yeah.
who need? My gosh, just the way that you're showing up with these principles and using the principles. I mean, by the way, investing in a venture capital company. Well, my money's going into a company, into a fund that is led by the values you've talked about and expressed here.
Well, and you had a guest on, I forget his name, that talked about how it was so important to pour into the leaders of the companies. And I walked away from that episode going, Why would you not want to put money into those companies?"
Yeah,
Because I've just got to think that they're capable of doing exceptional things.
yeah. Anything you want to share before we go? Anything you want to pitch? Anything left for you to share?
I think we're good.
I think we're good too. I'm better. Yeah, we're good. I'm great. I mean, I'm floating over here. This was so energizing for me to do this with you.
Well,
So
likewise. I love spending time with you, Clay.
I love spending time with you too, Andrew. I always have. We've had some really meaningful, it's like sometimes you work with folks and then they go their own way and, you wish them well and you went your own way, but we've stayed connected. And I think it's because
For
of
sure.
our shared values and the way we want to walk through the world, which is really meaningful to me.
Well, likewise, you've been incredibly helpful to me through the years. Like, I am better for spending time with you, for learning from you. I think the healthiest relationships are the ones where each side thinks they got it the best. I don't know if you think you got it the best. I definitely think I got it the best because I always learn something. I always walk away energized. Like, you're an energy giver, not
Mm,
an energy sponge. And I think that's a beautiful thing to be in the world. Like, we need more energy givers in the world. So keep doing what you're doing, man.
thank you. That's the plan. I appreciate it. And I just thank you for being here. This has been incredible. And folks listening, thank you for being here. If you're still listening, I appreciate you taking the time. I'm imagining you learned a ton. Andrew shared just a ton of wisdom, so smart, so impactful. And let's do more of this. So please follow the show and me, Clay Stelzer. Each week we're having these kinds of conversations where we're going to stop pretending, we name our fears, and remember what it takes to stand tall as the giants we already are. When leaders get real and they out themselves and they share what they're up to in the world and what they're learning and where there's still growth to be had, those leaders make it safe for others to do the same. So please subscribe or follow wherever you listen to podcasts. Share with other leaders, leave a review if you're inclined, and help more people feel what's possible when fear doesn't run the show. Thanks so much.